Okay, guys, I got a comment on one of the videos about wiring harnesses, and most of them are available for replacement. However, I guess this model with a standard transmission is not available. So, I never considered buying a new one, but because this one's in pretty good shape. So let's go through fixing it. Of course, you start from the connector end. I left this unwrapped because I could see the wire colors better. And you just start unwrapping. And when you unwrap, you check the conditions of the wire. I mean, this wire looks like it's bad. It's just dirty. The wire is fine. Yeah, you can see the crap coming off of it. I had a comment about my hands always being clean. Well, when you're putting a new engine together, yeah, it's all clean. Take, for instance, this one. This is the cam sensor. There you go. I don't know if you can see that but there's broken copper there. So we ordered one for that. Let's see, we have somewhere here. Exhaust pressure at the at the pedestal. I believe that's what this one is. It's shot. I mean, look at that's basically, I don't know if that's factory or the previous owner did that, but that's just silicone. So we ordered a new one for that. And some of these we're going to eliminate. And the way you eliminate them is Ford uses for thermistor circuits and stuff like that. Ford uses a resistance of 456 ohms, if I'm not mistaken. And you can use if I can find it. Here we are. Those are half watt. Those are 1 watt. Here we go, 470 ohm resistor. If you're going to eliminate, like we're eliminating the pedestal solenoid, well, if you just leave the plug hanging, you're going to get a soft code. But it will set the light, I think. It may not set the light, but you'll still get a code. And you don't want that. So what you'll do is cut the connector out and solder one of these in place between the two wires. Taken care of. As long as you're sealing it good with heat shrink tubing, it's not a big deal. So when we get to that one, I'll show you how we do that. It's really simple. And it's really effective. You can even use, these are 1 watt, and these are half watt. One of my other hobbies is restoring vintage electronics. I got a bunch of heath kits I'm working on upstairs. But yeah, these I got from Mauser. When you buy them in quantities of 10 or higher, I think they're 13 cents a piece or 11 cents a piece. It's something ridiculous. They cost more to ship them than they're worth. Or you can go ahead and Riff Raff sells them. A couple other guys sell them on the internet. They make connectors. And if you take that, it's a sealed connector, and you'll just plug it in and you'll be done. You don't have to do anything. But if you've got the harness out here like this, why not just get rid of the connector? You know, you're eliminating a possible point of infiltration and a short or all kind of stuff. And it's cheaper. These are 13 cents a piece. The deal from Riff Raff, I think, is 11 or 15 bucks or something like that. But there's also one for the air heater circuit. They sell a wire. Well, the wire from one end, I forget how it's wired. I'd have to look it up. But it basically goes a resistance to ground to tell the computer that, yeah, it's here, everything's cool, when it's not even there. Well, that piece of wire with a resistor in it is like $14. Well, okay, sure, you can do that. Or you can snip the wires and solder in a 13-cent resistor, cover it with marine grade heat shrink tubing from Harbor Freight. I think these are $3.50 a box or something like that. I buy that kind of crap when I'm in there just stocking up on stuff. And use a heat gun, seal it. When the glue pops out the ends, it's done, and it's a lifetime fix. You never have to worry about it again. With theirs, you know, with the wire, yeah, it'll work if you want to spend $14 on it. I'm kind of cheap that way. I'd rather spend it on other stuff. And you know, being electronics knowledgeable, it's not too difficult to do. So let me pause the video, and get to a part where we're working on something on this harness other than just unwrapping tape. And I would suggest taking pictures of each connection and rewrap it in the same positions that the cables were originally in. Because if you wrap them in the opposite direction and stuff, you're going to have all kinds of weird figure eights going on inside your wiring harness trying to get it to hook up to the sensors that you need to. And we've eliminated some sensors on this machine, so there's not a lot going on. Most of them are in the front. Like, let's see. This leg here covers both of the water temp sensor and the cam position sensor. So that's one line that covers the 3 connections on the front of the engine. And then on the back side of the oil reservoir, the high pressure oil reservoir, we've got the IPR valve, the engine temperature, oil temperature, and the oil pressure idiot light switch that goes in the top of the reservoir. And that's basically it. We've eliminated the fuel bowl, so there's no heater, there's no water and fuel sensor. What's the other one? There's another one in there. I can't remember. But yeah, all that's been eliminated. So those connectors, we can either, if you solder in a resistor, I believe you'll get the light on all the time. So you don't want that. So we might just leave them blank. When we fire it up, we'll check and see. If we need to, we'll put the resistors in where we need them and eliminate the connectors, and we'll go over that. But I don't think we're going to have a problem. The biggest ones are the exhaust pedestal, and we eliminated the EPV sensor, so that will we'll just tag that wire off. Maybe even tape the connector off. I don't know. We'll figure out something. It's not a big deal. The important part is if you have an open connector, make sure it's sealed against the elements. Because if you ever go in and want to clean the engine, say you want to clean the engine, you go to car wash, start blasting away. Yeah, you got open connectors there that you're going to short out. And you have the possibility of damaging something. If nothing else, like say we're going to not use this, you could either clip the wires off it, I don't know if that's a good idea or not, or take RTV and just fill it up. It'll be a pain in the butt to dig it out, but at least you'll still have the connector there. I don't know if that RTV is a good idea or not. I've seen folks do it and then need the sensor, and it takes you 45 minutes to get all the crap out of it so you can actually plug it in. Might be easier to just clip it and secure the wires in the sealed heat shrink tubing and just let them hang, or you know, lash them to something, wire tie them to something else so they're out of the way. But you know, a lot of people are intimidated by the electronics on these trucks. It's really not that complicated. I mean, you've got a PCM that controls the just about everything on the engine, and then you've got the IDM, which is just an amplifier to fire the injectors, and the PCM sends a signal to the ADM, and the ADM shoots it to ground, and the voltage goes through. Not that big a deal. Now it's 100 volts, 140 on some of them if you hit the modified ones, IDMs, and it's an injector driver module. That's what they call it. And I would suggest, well, Well, I don't know if I'd suggest it or not. If you've got one running and you're good, they don't go bad till they get water infiltrated. On this model, it's behind the driver's side fender, so it's fun to get out. On my old 96, I forget where it's at. Oh, it's right on top of the fender well, I think. It's right there in the open. You can get to it. Much easier than this model. But speaking of the 96, it had all kinds of wiring problems when I got it. And the biggest problem all of these 7.3s have is the crankcase ventilation elbow. It's a rubber elbow that comes from the doghouse that sits on top of the valve cover and plugs into the plumbing that goes into the turbo. So you can pull those those fumes out of the engine and run them through. And it's a good principle in theory, but all it does is coat the inside of your intercooler with oil. Not a good idea. But anyways, what happens is those get hard over age because it's just a rubber elbow, and they crack and they start leaking vapor. And what happens is the vapor collects and actually oil droplets start to fall, and guess where they land? On the OBS system, they land right on the wiring harness. And what happens is it goes in there, and you know what petroleum does to oil, or petroleum does to plastic. Eventually it makes it like goo. Well, mine on that 96 was so bad that the wires had come exposed and were hitting together, and everybody said it's under valve cover harness. No, it was the main harness. And it's just a matter of, split the harness open, check the wire, get the gooey wire out of there, clean it all out, and then replace the wires one at a time. And solder them in, and you're good to go. Buy some good silicone wire that's not going to be susceptible to the oil infiltration, and you're good to go. That's a big thing, big complaint of the older model 7.3s is the engine harnesses go bad. It's a wiring harness. It's wires. You can run new wire. Doesn't matter what color it is, as long as it's connected in the right pinout and goes to the right destination, you're good. Doing one wire at a time, how can you go wrong? And let me pause the camera and show you something else here. I bought this collection of butt connectors off of eBay. They come in a kit of like 200 of several different sizes, and these things work remarkably well. What you'll do is I'll show you, because we're going to do one. We're going to replace the connector. What I do is I strip the wire, tin it, shove it in here, solder it, shove the new wire in here, solder it, put heat shrink tubing over it, and it's a permanent connection. You're not twisting wires together and soldering them. That's an okay fix, but it's not very professional. And I come from an electronics background, so try to do things the permanent way, basically. And those little connectors, I think I paid $4 or $5 off of eBay. They come in a little tiny tray like this, and I just dumped them in here because I bought, I think, 3 of them and just combined them. And it's surprisingly how many I've used on my old truck and my wife's, that stupid Explorer. Someone did some maintenance on it and left the what was that? The throttle body wires run right past the EGR. Laid them right on the EGR valve. Well, of course they got baked and shorted out. But boy, that car ran screwy as could be. And it was a simple fix. Cut the wires out, solder a new wire in, put them in the right location, and everything's fine. Let's see. All right, let's get started here. Let me arrange stuff and we'll get started on one of the connectors that I'm going to replace. We'll do the cam position sensor connector. I mean, technically it's not bad, but the wires are broken and exposed, and it's down there in front of the engine. I would just rather not have exposed wiring, just for shits and giggles, I guess. Here's the Motorcraft part, part number for the connector. Here's the connector. They even shipped the heat shrink tubing, but we're going to use a different size. That's awfully big. But they've redesigned the connector. Look at it. It's much more robust than the old one. But here's the problem. Every wire is white. So if you just clip them off, you're not going to know which one to put. You know, in the correct orientation. So what I like to do, and I'll show you this in a minute here, is we'll also stagger connections. You don't want all three connections bunched together with all that bulk of the butt connector and then the heat shrink tubing. So we'll stagger them. We'll put one here, put one here, put one here. That way, when you go to rewrap it with this loom stuff, it's not trying to bulge out. It'll look normal. All right, so let me set up and we'll get started. By the way, I brought down my soldering station from upstairs. You don't need anything this elaborate. I was upstairs and I just brought it down because it's easier. You can use a soldering iron or a soldering gun. It's not going to matter. 25 watts will get you done. 100 watts will get you done, but you can burn stuff, so be careful with it. Duh. You know, not rocket science here. We're just soldering wires together. When I did the work on the 96, I used a soldering gun. So who's going to bring a workstation out, set it on top of a truck and try? No, that's silly. Make things as easy as possible. I'm working on a bench, so I got a bench type soldering workstation. It's just my old Hayco. It's not a big deal, and the thing worked great. Worked great for circuit board work. So let me get started. I'm just going to let the recording roll, and where we end up is where we end up. So let's see. All right. We're going to do the cam sensor file. Nice dull scissors here. It comes with instructions. You're supposed to disconnect the battery ground. Yeah, okay. That's fine. We just need the connector. I'm not sure if this is the weatherproof stuff has glue in it. Yeah, that has glue in it. Okay, well those would be usable then. It is kind of big, that's all. Alright. So, we got lots and lots of wire here. I like the way they did that new connector. It's much more robust than the old one. Let me check it on the engine, make sure it fits, just to be sure. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good fit. All right. Well, they give you enough wire to get up, way up into the harness with it. And we don't need that much. Because this wire here is good. It's just dirty. What I clean it with is denatured alcohol. Because denatured alcohol will break down oil without... You can use acetone or brake cleaner if you want. It's awful hard on the insulation of the wire though. Denatured alcohol is not going to do anything to the wire. It's just going to get the grease off. In fact, you have to scrub the living crap out of it to get the grease off. So we've got that much room to work with. We'll lay it out with the clip up. So this first wire is the green wire. So we'll snip the green wire. Let's give it some flexibility. We'll start right there. Now I need a pair of strippers. Alright, let's get some of these connectors. This is pretty light gauge wire, so we'll use these. I think these are good for up to 14 gauge. So. Alright. Oh, I forgot the solder. Let me go get the solder. Good lord. One thing I forgot to mention, when you order your resistors, come on, focus, get some good solder. This is Kester, which is really good solder. It's good for electronics. And this is a 1 pound spool? Yeah, 1 pound spool. And goodness, I've had this 5 or 6 years. And I do a lot of electronics repair as a hobby. And that's how much I've used. So, and it goes, there's the core. So I've got a good 3/8 of an inch left on the roll. So anyways, let's get these stripped. This is, I haven't used these strippers in forever. I don't know where they get these numbers from. But it's for, this is 16 gauge wire. You want to strip about 3/8 of an inch. Get a little twisty on it. Pull the solder out. Stand it up. Like that. You want to tin it first before you put it in the connector. Oh, you get a good connection. Like I said, this is just basic electronics repair. Not a big deal. But you are dealing with 5-volt circuits, so they are very connection dependent. So if you've got a crappy connection, you're going to get a crappy amount of feed to it. Just take your time. Cool thing is, if you make a mistake, you cut the wire off and start over. So, in order to maintain some kind of semblance of sanity with the length here, let's see, that's a clip up. This is the green one. Yeah, we'll cut it about there. Now comes the important part. Do not forget to put the heat shrink tubing on. If you forget it, you'll be cutting that connection and redoing it to put the heat shrink in. How do I know? Speak from experience. Let me tell you. I think I used this side to go over that connector. Yeah. So, all in all, this connection is going to be, cut that too long. Yeah, we'll cut that off. So that connection is going to be that long, so we'll make the heat shrink about 3/8 of an inch longer, right about there. Like I said, none of this crap is precise because it's just wire. Alright, let me cut this off a little bit. Get a good snug fit on it. Put the heat shrink on it. Follow my own advice, right? Alright. That's better. Now we'll strip this guy. It is also, looks like 18 days. This stuff is thin. Yep. Well, they got pretty nice wire on it. Pretty good quality wire. Actually better than what's in my own. You can see it has more strands. I hope it fits in that connector. Alright. Not going to fit, I don't think. So we'll jam this in there. Oh, it does fit. Okay, cool. Now, you see how I left just a little bit of the copper exposed? Let me make sure you can actually see that. Right over the connection. There. you can see the copper, the insulation is just a tad away from the connector. And what you'll do is you'll put the tip of the soldering iron right here where they join, and then wick some solder in there. Let me show you how I do it. It's zoomed in now, so hopefully it won't look too shaky. Sorry about the stool scraping around, it's on the cement floor. So, you heat the wire and the connector at the same time. And then you add the solder to the connection. Like I said, it's not difficult at all. You probably get away with just heating it up and letting the tin, see the solder run down in there? There you go. That's what you want. And we'll get a close-up view of that when we're done. Alright, let's see if you can actually see this. I'm just going to pick the tripod up. And there you can see the solder flows on the joint just like we want to. Where is it? There it is. There we go. You can see the solder flowed right in there. That is a permanent fix. And then what we'll do is we'll slide this down over it. It's kind of tight. That's too far. And then we'll use a heat gun and heat shrink the tubing. Heat shrink the heat shrink. Alright. Next is the brown one, and we'll want to go past this connector, so let's go right here. Well, if I can get it to cooperate. Hold those two together. Yeah. Right there. Yep. Same thing. Wash and repeat. Take our other piece of tubing. Slide it on there now so it's on there. Cut about 3/8 off. And like I said, this kind of work is pretty relaxing. To me, it's relaxing. And if you take your time on this, you will never have a problem with these connections. Not saying you won't have another problem with the connector itself. I mean, they get abused, and you know, they're out in the heat cycles and all that of the engine, and you can encounter problems with it. Alright. Alright. Do this side. And like I said, if you do one wire at a time and make sure the orientation of your clip is proper. There's really, hey, I cut the wrong one. Ah, that's funny. Okay. There's really no way to screw it up. Oh wait, no. Yes, there is. Alright, so we'll cut this one here. That's what we need, right? Is to make the built-in problem. Yeah, there's the clip. We're going green, brown. Green, brown. Alright. It's this one. And like I said, you always want to check. And like I also said, it's pretty hard to screw it up. Take another connector. It's a little bit long. Make sure the middle one. Slide it in. There's our heat shrink. Our brown wire is the middle one. The brown wire is the middle one with the clip facing up. Alright, let's solder it in. That's real good. Alright. Now of course we have third wire, which is this one. Now I think I'll put it right there, in between the other two. So let's see, we want to match that hole. Yeah, let's put it right here. Now the old connector is free. We need another piece of DVD. And I guess this is why everybody says you have to replace the harness, because nobody's willing to take the time that you need to just fix it. I mean, to me, I never could understand why people replace. You can buy every connector on here, and you can replace the wire between the connectors. So I don't understand. Never did understand. People spend $500 for a new harness. And this is nothing but wire loom. I mean, not that big of a deal. Now a lot of people crimp them. And that's fine. You can crimp them and then solder them. But I'm going to solder them, and there's no stress on them. You know, up in the harness like this, there's no stress on them. You're going to pull the wires from here, not pull the wires. Anybody that pulls the wires doesn't need to be working on your car. And we flow enough solder in there to make a good joint. I had plenty of solder on there. Let's let it cool. Stop trying to rush it. And like I said, we'll slide the heat shrink tubing down, heat it up. When you'll see the glue bubble out the end, and it's done, and it's permanent. Should have actually done it correctly and put this one up here. That's what I was going to do, to spread them out a little. But you know, it is what it is. It's no big deal. They'll be fine. They're spread out enough where they won't bulge too bad. And that will finish up the ones in the front that really need to be that we're going to use. I think we'll do the IPR next, because the IPR valve kind of important. And I'll show you how, you know, you've got this connector here, which is identical to this connector here. So which one's the IPR? Well, you go by color. Wire color. And it's really not too difficult. I guess I should show you how to heat shrink. I mean, it's not real difficult. Let me shut the camera off and set up for that. Okay, so for each wire, I want to kind of pull it out away from the others. There's our connector. So we have, yeah, we can go this way a little bit. That's it. You just want to center it. That's where the end of our connector. You can feel it with your nail. Now, this is the difficult part, complicated. A lot of people use a lighter. Lighter works. To me, this is easier. Now you can see the connector coming out. I think this does a better job, actually. And believe me, this thing gets hot as a firecracker. You actually melt stuff with this stupid heat gun. Ask me how I know. All right. That's it. Now, I don't know if you can see it from there. I might have to zoom in. Yeah. You see the glue? The glue come out of the end of the heat shrink on both ends. That's a permanent watertight connection. And you never have to worry about it again. And next time when you go to the car wash and blast the crap out of your engine, getting it clean, you don't have to worry about this connector shorting out. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other two wires. All right. Yeah, that's good. Man, this shrinks them up fast. Like I said, this is probably pretty boring to watch, but it is essential. Trying to make that thing run correctly. Whew, that is hot. I blast my hand with that gun. Man. I want to be on the receiving end of this gun. All right. That is one completed replacement. And just to be sure, let's check it. So, with the clip facing up, it goes green, brown, blue. Green, brown, blue. And there we have it. That one's completely done. Now, this is the cheap wire loom you can get from Harbor Freight. I think it's $5 or $6 for a loop of it. Got a new piece. It's okay. So we cut a piece that is, we cut a little long. You can always cut it shorter. You can't add to it, but you can always cut from it. Now, I like to use, where's my tape? I used a whole roll of tape. Yep, there's what's left of it, right there. Whew. That's another thing. When you're rewrapping, use good tape. Use 3M tape. Don't use the cheap tape. Don't cheap out on it. What I like to do is stick it in between wires. And get at least 2 wraps on this, because it kind of acts like a strainer. And don't pull to snap it off. Cut it. Because what you do is if you pull it and to snap the tape, you put tension on it, and then you wrap it up, and then it wants to unwind because it's got tension on it. Now comes the fun part. This loom can be a pain in the butt to put on. Now this one's going to go easy because I'm filming. It's certainly long enough. Let's cut that off some. There. Just like that. There we go. Now, to allow this thing to move around, in other words, keep the wires loose in the loom, we're going to tag the end of it with tape, 4 or 5 wraps of tape, enough to keep this this end of the loom shut. This end we're not too worried about. It's going to get a Y connection on it. I got to look up my picture to make sure I get these. I think let's see. It probably runs almost parallel to it. Yeah, probably like it's laying. And that's it. You can tell where the new tape is, where the old tape is. I didn't bother breaking this connection because I'm going to break it here, and I can just open that loom up and check the wire. And that's what I did here. I broke the connection here, spread this loom out, pulled all the wires out, wipe them down with alcohol, check them for nicks, burns, abrasions, wear throughs, oil seepage through. This harness has no damage to it, so it's in really good shape. I'm really lucky. Close it back up, rewrap it.